Okay, so I want to discuss some important issues around the subject of transgender people. Um, I'd like to term that in a different way, transgenderism or something like that, but I'm not really sure what the correct adjective would be. So I'm just going to say transgender people. And I'm not saying that in a hateful way, I'm just saying it as it is. Transgender people. Okay? I want to discuss something I read, which was about Kelly Maloney. Now, Kelly Maloney was formerly known as Frank Maloney, and I think it's fair to say they're probably the most high profile transgender person in the United Kingdom. They're sort of the British equivalent of Caitlyn Jenner. Frank Maloney was well known as a boxing promoter, one of Britain's most prominent boxing promoters. He trained with people, or I should say, worked with people like Lennox Lewis and many other great champions. So he was a fairly famous figure in the boxing world. Um, Don King called him the mental midget. But the point is, he was prominent in a very, very macho sport. Now, Kelly Maloney, she, for the sake of this video, I'll use that pronoun simply for the sake of simplicity. Um, Although I don't entirely agree with it. I made a video about transgender issues before, and presumably transgender person naturally didn't like the things I had to say. The only thing I would say about these videos is that I genuinely, hand on heart, never make a video with the purpose of trying to hurt people, okay? But nor do I make videos and self-censor in case I hurt people. I just talk candidly about how I feel about something. So anyway, Kelly Maloney was going to appear on a program called First Dates. As I understand it, it's a reality TV show, a bit like Blind Date used to be, but I don't know all the details. Anyway, the point is it's a dating show. But the segment where she was going to appear was cancelled because the man that she was going to date felt uncomfortable about being with a transgender woman. Now, the man was a straight man, incidentally. I've just watched an interview with Kelly Maloney on this morning, and they said that she said that she still hasn't determined her sexual orientation. It's one important factor, I think, with the transgenders, this subject, is orientation. I personally take the view, and this might be controversial, but I personally take the view that no honest heterosexual man would want to sleep with a trans woman, knowing that person had once been male biologically and still partly is biologically male. But scientifically, you simply cannot change one gender to another 100%. You can't do it. That's a scientific fact. It's not a matter of opinion, it's not a matter of religious bigotry or anything else. It's a scientific fact. Now, opponents or let's say critics of the show or the man who pulled out are saying some pretty stupid things. One of the thing I really want to challenge, someone actually said, "Oh, if he felt uncomfortable, it's because his own bigotry has been exposed." Let's break this down a second. If you have a situation where, let's say, a man is on a date with a woman, okay, and talking about cisgender people, let's say they're on a date and the woman is uncomfortable because maybe he's behaving in a strange way or whatever. Would anyone criticize and condemn her for feeling uncomfortable? Now, before transgender people say it's not the same thing, I think that free thinking adults are responsible for their own feelings, their own actions, and all the rest of it. So, this idea that if people express discomfort in that sort of intimate situation, they're somehow bigoted. I mean, to me, where is the real intolerance here? It's a bit like the whole bathroom debate, basically vilifying any women who are uncomfortable as horrible right wing fascist bigots. The real intolerance I'm seeing is, frankly, from some trans opponents. I mean, proponents. Because it's basically saying you accept this 100%, You agree with us slavishly 100%, otherwise you're a horrible fascist bigot. And that's it. They're not really interested in debate. All it is playing the victim. In the end of the day, if I will say one thing, if this man knew that there was a chance he would be dating transgender people, he should have made it explicit at the beginning he didn't want to do that. So that is his fault. But Kelly Maloney can't really complain about this. In the end of the day, if you had once been a man, honest heterosexual men are not going to be comfortable sleeping with you. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter if you've had a sex change. Part of you will be biologically male. People could call me ignorant or bigoted or whatever. I'm not, but it's just a fact. I wouldn't do it personally. I don't care how attractive a transgender woman looked. If I knew that person had once been male, yeah, it would make me uncomfortable. If I ever go to Thailand, I'll be damn sure I don't get drunk, put it that way. Um, I just can't comprehend how people can claim this is bigoted. That someone is. I mean, it's not as if the man has said, "Oh, I hate Kelly Maloney and transgender people disgust me," and all. You know, this wasn't coming from a point of view of hatred. It was coming from a point of view of sincere discomfort, from what I understand. So why shouldn't the question be reversed? Transgender people should respect others' feelings as well. This works both ways. You can't demand that society respects you and just does everything your way if you're not willing to respect other people. I take the view that Kelly Maloney is right to say that you need to determine what your sexual identity or your sexual orientation is. But gay or straight, nothing changes the fact that you were once biologically male. It just doesn't. So, in my opinion, and I'm saying this as a point of view, not as a statement of hatred, if you are if you say that you're a heterosexual man and you say you have no problem sleeping with a trans woman, I honestly think that you are at least part bisexual. It's up to you. It's not my business. But I think there's an insincerity going on with this. And I remember there was a video from a left wing YouTube personality. I forget the guy's name, sort of political commentator. Let's just say he's a left wing equivalent of Stephen Crowder. Forget the guy's name. But anyway, he posed this question. Most people on there were saying something similar to what I'm saying here. But there were a few statements, including from the guy himself, saying, "Oh, if you don't accept this, then you're transphobic." Wait a second. Are you basically saying that if a heterosexual cisgender man refuses to sleep with a trans woman, he is transphobic because he feels? Well, I suppose technically he would, in terms of the technical definition of the word. It's a fear. I don't know if fear is so much the right term, though. I think it's more genuine discomfort. I would feel this uncomfortable, and I make zero apology for that. If you're offended by that, well, I'm offended by the assumption that cisgender people should just accept it. Um, I'll put it another way: if you have, let's say, you have a trans woman who sees herself as lesbian orientated, and she slept with a lesbian woman, and the lesbian woman wasn't aware that she had once been a man. Some would interpret that as rape because it's someone who's biologically male deceiving a woman to have sex with her. Now, I think this is a very serious issue. The transgender people and the so called progressive left say, oh, it's all about bigotry. But surely the issue here is consent. Surely the issue here is deceiving people. And I have to say, I have a lot of sympathy for the wives of trans women who suddenly turn around and say, "Oh, I'm suddenly a woman. You have to accept it." There was a there was a case featured. I think it was on Louder with Crowder. And just a disclaimer: I do not agree with everything that guy says. I'm a centrist. He's a right winger. Okay, but I do agree with this point. It is utterly insane that man who I believe this guy was in his late 40s or early 50s. He wanted to self-identify as a young girl, and I'm not talking about a young woman or a teenage girl. I'm talking about a child. That's how he self identified. He even went to a family where he was adopted and he was playing with the children of this family. This is a middle aged man. And the idea was, oh, I could be myself. But this guy was married with children. What about his wife? What about his children? Are they bigoted because he's suddenly throwing his bombshell on them and demanding that he be accepted? This is the sort of thing that we're talking about, and it makes me very irritated that whenever anyone has a different point of view, the discussion is shut down by using loaded terms like bigot and hateful, transphobic, all this sort of stuff. Look, the number of transgender people are less than 1%. And frankly, there's many people, even within the gay and lesbian community, who are not entirely comfortable with some of the notions that are being promoted. For example, this idea that you have to, if you refuse to sleep with a transgender person or you express that you're uncomfortable with that, then you're somehow transphobic. I mean, or that you're somehow hateful, let's put it that way. If you have a situation that, say, you could look at it any way, let's say a gay man is with a transgender man and that gay man believes he is with a gay man, he doesn't know that person was once a woman. That is deceiving him. And you could look at any number of scenarios where it is ultimately coming down to deception. If you have a man, let's put it this way, you have a cisgender man. I don't even like using that term, but I'm using it to speak the language that progressives can understand. Let's say you have a cisgender man who spikes a woman, right? In order to sleep with her. Most people would say he's taken advantage of her, and that's an arrestable offence. In many jurisdictions, it would be seen as statutory rape, unless I'm mistaken. Now, really, what is the difference with a trans woman deceiving a man that she had always been a woman, when at one point she wasn't? I take the view you have to be honest about your past, something as important as that. And I appreciate it does make it harder to get dates, but that is the way it is. That is the choice that you've made in life. You can't impose that on other people. You just can't. So that's my honest thoughts. If you want to interpret this as a hateful video, there's nothing I could do about that. In the end of the day, you're going to project a certain mindset about what you think about me and what you think about my opinions. There's nothing I could do about that. I'm not making this video to spread hate. I'm making this video to just generate discussion and awareness of the issues that are out there. Because this is going to get to a point where you're basically going to have a situation where people have to endorse this idea that you have sex with transgender people, whether you like it or not. That's okay, but we rightly condemn rape as not being okay. I see little difference. I really do. Let me know your thoughts. By the way, if you want to just come on and call me transphobic and so on, look, I'll say this: I'm willing to have debate, but I'm not willing to be just slandered point blank without people actually producing reasonable arguments.